Broadcasting from Baltimore, Maryland, this is 5x3 Radio, where strength is for everyone. I'm your host, Emily Sokolinski, owner of 5x3 Training, a strength and conditioning gym in Baltimore, along with my co-host, Rebecca Fishburne, founder of Cornerstone Strength Maryland. Each week, Rebecca and I will discuss the ins and outs of strength training, why there is a no one-size-fits-all approach, and why strength is so important in our daily lives. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now, on with the show. Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to 5x3 Radio. Rebecca and I are here on this Thursday morning that was kind of nice, and now it looks a little gloomy again. But it's March. We made it.
Yeah, and actually, Emily, it's just you said that welcome back, and that reminds me, we saw the new Ant-Man movie over the weekend.
Oh,
featuring the Welcome Back Kotter song.
I was going to say, welcome back.
As soon as you said that, now I got the song stuck in my head. Thank you so much.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember that song. That show. Who was it? Was it John Travolta?
Yeah, it was John Travolta. I can't remember who played the teacher, but yeah.
Yep. That was like, what, 70s?
Oh, total 70s with the big
Awesome.
cheese mustache.
Yeah,
but,
that was a good show. That was a good show. They don't make those kind of shows anymore. You have to go to.
You can probably watch them on rerun someplace.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. Like I did with the A-Team. I was watching my A-Team reruns. So Rebecca and I decided we haven't done a podcast on what.
Speaking of stuff from long ago,
exactly,
and how our views have changed,
our views and how we have changed our thinking about just training and our coaching, and I guess some nutrition changes too. Some nutrition, different views. That hasn't changed too much for me, but more importantly, like our views on training when we were younger, and even now as we're getting older. Right. There's really been an ebb and flow with the training, what we used to do, what we started doing, we realized was better. And then from there adapted even more, with our own training and then training others. Definitely. I've definitely kind of changed a little bit.
Then and now.
And then and now. So where should we begin with this? Do you want to go back to, okay, let's say when we were in our 20s, this is what we thought.
I mean, I don't know that we need to necessarily do this like decade by decade. I think we could do broad strokes. I think you and I both basically started out in a somewhat similar place where we thought, cardio was king.
Cardio was king and queen and prince and princess.
Yeah, yes. The whole royal family.
Yeah, basically.
I think we've probably talked about that to some degree.
Yeah, in
other podcasts, but
as a dancer,
this sort of fear of lifting things that were heavy. Oh my gosh, it's going to bulk me up. I don't, want to.
What was crazy was, so I started going to the gym when I started college, right? Because prior to that, I was just dancing. And I danced all the time. So there was no gym, and gyms really weren't really kind of on people's radar in the way they are now. And this is like the early 90s. Right. But my dad bought a rowing machine. So I started rowing and I loved it. I fell in love with it. So that kind of led me to the gym, and the gym at UMBC was so small. I mean, it may have been like 900 square feet of space. There was like nothing there, a couple treadmills, and then weight machines. And we've talked about that.
Like a hotel gym.
Yeah, basically. So, and I found, but I started, enjoying going to the gym because I liked the way it felt, even on the machines, like even doing the machines, right? I liked that feeling of kind of my legs feeling like they were getting stronger. I wasn't trying to, I guess I was doing it to also complement my dancing, but it was just haphazard. And I'm wondering, was that kind of the same for you? Kind of like a haphazard, like I'm going to the gym because.
Yeah. I mean, definitely like my main deal was the running. And, for me, most of the time that was stuff that I did outside. Right. So I didn't have other than if it was like totally crappy weather outside, I didn't have much use at that point for a gym. Like if it was bad weather outside and, high school, coach would take us to the gym and we'd just spend the day training, right? Like it wasn't a missed day, but we were weightlifting and like you said, like totally haphazard. It was more, just to fill the time and not get sopping wet.
Yeah, it was like if I wasn't dancing, I was at the gym doing something. And actually, one of the dancers, and she wasn't a dance major. She took dance classes. I remember it very clearly. She was a bodybuilder, and she always wore baggy sweatpants and like the cutoff shirts, the sweatshirts that had like the shoulder, right off the shoulder, and walked around, like Fame, and walked around with a gallon of water. And it like was clearly like, this is what she did. She and her boyfriend did. I never really saw her body because she was always covered up, but I was enamored and I was fascinated by like that kind of bodybuilder world. And that's my, like kind of my first delve into like, lifting weights or doing it, but it was more the bodybuilding. And I never really did much with it because again, I was dancing. But when I moved to New York after graduating from college, first thing I did was, of course, join a gym because I have to have a gym. But again, it was just kind of going and doing mindless things, mostly treadmill. Were ellipticals out then? I think there might have been ellipticals or something like that. But I remember just using the machines, but focusing again more on kind of like being on the cardio machines for like an hour at a time. And I had this very disjointed view of like what I wanted my body to look like, which was a very muscular body. I had pictures of swimmers. I had pictures of basketball players, female basketball players, volleyball. Gabrielle Reese, right? The volleyball player. I wanted to look like her. Except what I was doing at the gym was completely opposite of what I should have been doing. And I had this very disjointed idea of like, well, if I'm gonna lift weights, I'm going to get too big. And I wrote that somewhere in one of my journals when I was living in New York. I don't want to get big. I don't want to lift weights because it's going to make me bulky. But I had these pictures in my journal too of these women who were muscular. But in my mind, it wasn't bulkiness. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Actually, as I'm talking about this, I was so completely convoluted in my thinking of gym versus, body versus what I should look like, what I don't want to look like. And nothing came to fruition. I kind of kept thinking, like, I felt like I was spinning my wheels always, but I had to go to the gym, but there was never really a plan, of action.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it checks that box. It calms the anxiety about like, I need to be doing something, or I need to exercise in order to stay fit, or in order to.
And it was it was a never-ending cycle because I would look at myself and I'd still say, well, I still don't like what I see. Like I'm still not looking like this chick over here in this picture. But of course, it's because I wasn't doing anything right. But no one was telling me what I could do right, and I didn't want to lift weights because I didn't want to get big. And it was like it was a completely. I just didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing.
I mean, like, I guess, at that point, at that stage in my life, there wasn't even any real kind of like idea of, I want to look like this athlete. It was more, I wanted to run faster, but nobody ever really put together for me the idea that if I strength trained, my times might decrease. I might be faster if I were stronger.
Right.
That wasn't part of the thinking at that point. So it was always like, go out for a run. And there was definitely like, you're talking about, you spend like 4 hours at the gym, or you're just there and more is better. Right. And I definitely had that about running. Like there was a certain minimum amount. Like if it wasn't a 5-mile run, it really wasn't a run.
Right.
It was sort of like, I may as well call that a rest day or a day off.
Exactly. Exactly.
Some convoluted thinking there as well.
Very. And I can remember, and I, this is years later when I kind of sat and thought about it, I was like, why was I so stupid? But nobody really, dancers didn't strength train. There wasn't that idea of like dancers. I mean, if dancers went to the gym, whatever, they went to the gym on their own. Like I did, and my girlfriends did when I was in college. But my junior year, I had decided that, I was going to join the Marine Corps. Because screw this dancing thing, it's not going to work out for me. So I spent like my whole junior year deciding that I was going to join the Marine Corps, right? That was going to be my goal.
Pendulum swung the other way.
It really did. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to become an officer candidate. I'm going to go to officer candidate school, and I'm just going to follow my father's footsteps. And I, went down to Quantico, and I did the whole thing down there. And I met with one of the, the captain down in I think it was Prince George's, where the recruitment office was. And I went down there for my physical fitness test, and I had been training for this, right? I was doing the run, I was doing my sit-ups. There was a hang that was part of it. You had to hang like your chin above the bar, right? I was like, oh, I can do that. And I get down there, and I get up onto the bar, and I must have been up there for maybe about 2 seconds before I just collapsed. And I was like, okay, well, that didn't go as planned. Then the run was fine, and the crunches were fine, but I failed the physical fitness test because I had no upper body strength.
Right.
And it didn't dawn on me that it was because I had no upper body strength. It was just kind of like, well, how come the volleyball player can hang there for 75 seconds? Oh, well, she probably has upper body strength because, she strength trains. Well, dancers don't need a strength train, but I thought I had upper body strength from just all the other stuff that I was doing. No, come to find out, you actually have to train for that.
Yeah.
And, fast forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess dancing is different too, but I wonder, I don't necessarily remember in high school or college, with running sports anyway. There wasn't an organized strength training component to it.
No.
And I had played field hockey in there also. There was no organized strength training component to it, but then you fast forward to now, right? So, oh my God, this is at least 40 years later.
Right.
Maybe more.
Right.
And for my kids, for Felicia's club soccer team, for club soccer, there's an organized 1 day a week where they're doing strength training, specifically in a gym with a trainer. Okay, so 1 day a week from strength training perspectives is maybe a little bit different than what we might prescribe, but that's worlds different than the sort of haphazard hit or miss. Oh, it's raining today, I guess you should lift weights approach.
Right.
That I had when I was that age. I mean, I think culturally we've made some progress in terms of recognizing the importance of strength training for people at all ages, because, even stuff you see in the newspaper these days about the importance of strength training for senior citizens or for
every
people
other day. Right.
That is not something the messaging that you and I grew up with was more had to do with body fat, can you pinch more than an inch kind of a thing. You wanted to keep the cultural message was keep your body weight down, as opposed to there's now more messaging about the importance of strength training. So, I mean, it's not, I think, you can't necessarily completely fault us for our ignorance. I was going to say, we were swimming in the same water.
I was going to say, I mean, thinking about this and talking this out, talking out loud about it now, our thinking was what we were being told, in a sense, right? What we were reading, what we were learning from articles or magazines or people we knew, or, dancers, there's no strength training program for dancers. Why, I mean, if you want to go to the gym, that's fine, but we don't, why would you need that? Why does anybody need that? So, and that was in the sports world too. I mean, you're talking basketball. I mean, swimming. There were no strength training programs for those athletes. It wasn't as it is now, where they realize oh, wow, strength is for everybody. And it's the foundation for all that we do. Let's actually focus on this. So part of it was that we didn't know that understand the importance of it. There wasn't
we didn't know, and neither did our coaches.
Nobody knew. And also there was the mindset of, well, I don't want to get big, because that was being thrown in our faces too, right? Women don't need to look like this. You don't need to have muscles, da, 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 da. So you're going through now, and your 20s and your 30s, but the change, finally, I stopped thinking I was going to get big and started realizing, okay, let's get off the treadmill, let's get off the elliptical machine, let's do some strength training, right? But there still wasn't the idea of why am I doing this? Am I doing this to get stronger? No, I'm trying to do this for a smaller body. I'm trying to do this to lose weight. There was still that mental, that was
Yeah.
always the goal, right? That was always the goal even into my 20s and 30s with the weights, with
Yeah.
the gym.
And I think for me, maybe in there, a little blip that's maybe slightly different is I did in my 30s have this, maybe you could call it aha moment about the importance of strength for everyday utilitarian purposes. But that was like, I had kids.
Sure.
And I somehow, a trainer at one of the gyms helped me put together the idea that if I were stronger, it would make it a whole lot easier to carry the baby car seats and, that kind of thing. So there was like a little bit in there for me where there was a reason to have strength. There was a utilitarian purpose for it. But at about the same time, right? Like as soon as I kind of got through that phase where having strength for the physical demands of early babyhood
right.
Had passed and my kids could move themselves around. I didn't have to carry them all the time and everywhere. I had a friend who was like, come on, let's do this. Like one of the group fitness classes that was more strength based. And, eventually like, and we have this in common too. It was like a group power. So you and I both spent some time as group power or / body pump, instructors. But like my initial reaction to that was, I don't need that. I don't want to, just like you're describing, I don't want to get all muscular. I don't want to, that like there was a utilitarian reason for strength, but like I still had that idea in my head that too much weightlifting was gonna, I don't know, make me look like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That's interesting because for me, it was, no one ever had said that to me. I mean, that wasn't, like I said, as a dancer, strength wasn't important. No one ever spoke with the word of strength, of needing strength. Like you're using your own body. I mean, aren't you, you're strong enough. And
it was that idea with running and people still have that idea. Like people who are runners, a lot of times you still hear this where they say like, well, I probably need to work on some upper body strength, but my legs are fine because I run all the time.
Right.
People have this idea that they have leg strength from running, but that's different. Endurance is different than strength, but people don't generally.
Right.
That doesn't click for people.
No, I mean, into my 30s, going to the gym was still just that, going to the gym, because that's what you do, right? You go to the gym, and I had my dancing, and I was teaching, fifth grade, and then I was at the dance studio teaching dance, and as a school director, and the gym was always important to me. But it was more of just like I go and I do some things and I sweat a lot and that's going to keep me at this size and this weight, and I'm going to be all good. I'm going to be good because my eating was crap at this time. And I never could connect the fact that why my back was starting to bother me in 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Was a result of the fact that I just was deteriorating because of my dancing, and my body wasn't really doing much to kind of wasn't doing enough as I was aging, as I was getting older, to compensate for all the movement I'm doing and the bodily harm I'm doing in a sense to my body by moving this way. And I'm not really doing any kind of real resistance training to kind of compensate and balance it out. And my back was getting worse and worse and worse. And it was never in my mind of, well, I'm just not strong enough for this. Like, I'm not really the program I'm doing at the gym. It really, never connected, never made a connection at all about if I actually had some kind of, progressive overload program at the, training at the gym, maybe I'd feel different. No, that wasn't my thinking at all. And we're going into 2008, 2009, when the back was like really just, bombing out. And I still was not focused on that.
Like when you started, okay, so you, at some point, Diego got you started with the starting strength. And in part, it was because it was something he had been doing and he had discovered that helped him with his back. And he was recommending that to you for that purpose initially. But like, I think you and I both went through like a group power body pump phase when did
I
that
never
happen?
did. I took body pump one time
Oh, you took
and
it.
I
Oh,
hated
I
it.
thought you, oh, okay.
No, I
Never mind.
taught
We're
spin.
both
I
spin
was spin and I was a
instructors.
spin instructor for 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I started out like as a spin instructor and it was like that made sense. That was cardio. That was essentially the same thing for me. So like the spin it filled the gap that I couldn't fill with running. Like I got to a point where I had too many small children to go out for a run.
Sure.
I could only put 2 of them into a stroller.
Right.
Everyone's like, there was no way Hannah was
Right.
coming on a bike while I went on a long run or, that kind of thing. So it was like, okay, I'm going to check them into daycare.
Right.
Now I'm stuck using the machines that are in the gym. And that's how I got switched over to spin at that point. Spin and treadmills and stuff. And then at some point, I guess after I had been a spin instructor, they were doing a training for group power. And I was like, okay, I'll give that a try and see. And then, so for me, I didn't have a Diego to like lead me into starting strength. It was like, I started doing body pump with the little pretend barbell and, that sort of stuff. And it's all just like a crap ton of reps. And there is this vague notion that you're progressively overloading, but like you're talking over a course of 2 to 3 months, right? When they come out with the next release, the songs are all different. The movements are different. The programming, the timing, all of that is different. They find a new way to make the participants feel sore.
Sure.
And people are really like, the participants are really more tuned into this, like, oh, I feel sore the next day. And then they think that they're getting stronger. And there is just sort of bandied around this vague notion that, oh, if you're still using the same weights on your pretend barbell that you were using 6 months ago, you haven't been challenging yourself. Like put the bigger weights on. But it was all very nebulous. The weights didn't weigh normal amounts.
No,
you couldn't measure it. It was all unmeasurable.
And for most people, that's fine. For most people, it's I'm doing something in a group setting. I'm having someone else guide me through this.
Right.
And I'm moving weights. I'm doing resistance training. Right. This is all I really need to do, because this is more exciting and more fun
and entertaining
than me going out there and actually doing like a set of 5 reps, because this is not fun for me. This is not entertaining for me. This is boring. This is
but that for me was sort of like a bridge, an imaginary way to get to the concept of, okay, that was sort of like a barbell. So maybe I can see myself using a barbell. And then from there, like, okay, it's not completely unfamiliar.
I don't remember. I mean, yes, Diego introduced me to starting strength so I started in June of 2010, right after I was able to walk properly again and function right after everything with my back. He had been doing it for a couple months, but even prior to that, rewind a couple years, I was teaching a class at Kinetics, and it was more of a body weight class. It was my bar class. I say that because I have that article I wrote is still just like the number one article, or either I get so much hate from it or people saying, thank you so much for writing this. And I wrote that like, I don't know how many years ago now, 10 years ago, but I had a bar at a dance studio because that's where I am. I'm in a dance studio, but I was slowly starting to incorporate push-ups and rows and lunges and additional exercises into this class, and people loved it. They kind of got it. It was, very low impact. That was really the big thing, it was low impact. So I had books. I had athletic books. I had Rachel Cosgrove's book. If you don't know who Rachel Cosgrove is, she and her husband have a very successful gym out in California called Results Fitness. They've been around forever. And I got her book on basically training as a woman, right? And doing resistance training. And that was my first kind of eye opener to like, oh, wow, you can use a bar. You can use dumbbells. Like here's a program, and it's designed to possibly give me the body that I've been looking for. But it was, so you started using that and kind of delving into that as I really was looking to do more training. I wanted to work with people in a personal training environment. And I started in that capacity. So I was slowly getting away from machines and cardio and leaning more towards this, like, kind of dipping my toes into actual working with, like, doing resistance work. I just didn't know how to really go about doing it, right? I didn't know how to incorporate that into the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
And it still wasn't giving me the satisfaction, right? That makes sense that I wanted
Right.
as far as like how my body looked and how my body felt, right?
Like the results.
I still wasn't getting the results because I think I still had this mindset of smaller body, toned body, not necessarily where my thinking is today, where our thinking is about strength and a bigger picture with strength training, rather than just this very small window of, I want to look better. I don't want to look at myself in the mirror and see that, right? That was still really the focus. Definitely was still the focus, even up until 2010, up until I started this program. And the mindset totally shifted after I started the barbell training. So I think we've worked ourselves up from, our 20s and our 30s, and because I started this I was 35 when I started this program 13 years ago. Yeah. Because I'm 48 now.
I was older than you when I started. I'm older than you now.
Yes, you are. You always will be older than I. But I think that's the journey. That's been the journey for kind of for us though. Like, we always started in one aspect, like thinking of, cardio, the gym and I still never had a idea of like, why am I going to the gym? What's the purpose?
Well, so I guess the thing that's interesting to me too, though, is like once you and I both started with starting strength, right? That starting strength answers the whys,
exactly.
Right? And it also gives you it sets your goal for you, right? Get as strong as possible, as quickly as possible, using the most muscle mass over the greatest effective range of motion, like that.
And it wasn't even like, for me in the beginning, I didn't even give a shit about any of that. Like that wasn't, all I realized was my back feels better. Like, what the hell just happened? How is my back better after almost 5 years of it feeling like shit? And now this is the first time in years, in just 2 months, where I actually feel like my body's back. Like I have control again over my body. And it took me away from what I looked like and to how I felt. Because I forgot how it felt to feel good and not in pain. and then I learned more about it. But at the time, it was just, Diego just said, try this. This is kind of cool. And I've been doing this.
You found the magic, the special sauce. Yeah. This is what works.
Like PT didn't work, and my doctor's going to give me a back brace. And I'm like, I'm 35 years old. Something has to give. And there was a purpose for going to the gym too. That's what it was. It was like, I had a purpose now for going to the gym. I had a program. I was following something. My husband was coaching me. There was this progression of adding more weight and warming up. And it felt so good to have a purpose and have a reason for.
Well, and I think the reason that the Starting Strength program is really appealing to a lot of people is it takes a lot of the confusion away. Right. You can step into a training facility, a weight room. You can look at the equipment, and you can have a room packed with equipment, and you know what to do and where to start and what is going to help you get stronger in the most efficient, time efficient way.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't have to waste your time doing like the leg extension and work each different muscle group.
Right.
Just work the whole.
And we can, and we can sell that. We can sell that now. And that's what we do, right? That's how we sell it. But in the beginning, for me, no one sold that to me. It was just, try this because you've tried everything else and nothing's worked,
Yeah.
And, but what I came away with was, holy shit, this doesn't just work, but I love the way I feel. I'm doing something that a lot of women aren't doing. There's progression to it. It's something different than what I've been trying to do with the dumbbells and the this and the step ups and the this and the little, here, and it's just 3 lifts, and I can still work on my chin ups, and we can still do burpees, which we did. One day we did like 20 minutes of burpees. We never did that again. So we're still doing stupid shit, he and I, but we had this, and it was this kind of a revelation of, I never thought this was going to feel so good. And my body didn't change at all over, like, it didn't change at all. What I did was it made me feel better, like physically better, and way more aware of myself, and way more aware of what it meant to train and to have a program. And, I always relate it to dance, because it's like you go in, the first thing you do are your plies. So the first thing you do is you squat, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then you go home. And I liked having that kind of very, scheduled plan. But more importantly, it shifted my mindset so much. Like, I mean, I remember, I think about it now. How did I think all those years ago, all that crap I was doing was the right thing to do? And this has been like the best thing the past 13 years that I've ever done for myself.
Like, given that, and given you're describing sort of this, like,
it was an epiphany.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
A lot of times I think people, when they find starting strength, and I think I went through a phase like this, become kind of strict adherents, disciples, even of starting strength, and almost like seemingly a lot of times very rigid in their thinking or their approach.
I think
did you go through a phase like that?
No, I think that's now, because when we started it was 2010. And it only been around for like maybe a year, 2 years.
Starting strength?
It was not really. I mean, we had the first edition, or like the actual book. Like before that, it was like a PDF. I mean, he was doing this in CrossFit gyms, and right, okay. I think CrossFit, he may have just broken from CrossFit, right? So when I went to a CrossFit gym for our seminar. It was in New Jersey. It was at Gorilla Fitness. And I remember going in there, and it was fucking freezing in that gym. I was like, why is it so cold in here? It's a warehouse. I'd never been to a CrossFit gym before. And they're like, and we sit and we sit and we listen to the lecture. And the next day when we go to do the platform work, they're like, okay, go on the rowing machines and row a bit. And I hadn't been on a rowing machine forever. But I'm like, what are we doing? I was so confused as to like where we were. There were no mirrors. There was like nothing, and it was a whole new experience for me. And I didn't know anything about CrossFit. There was a couple there that they're wearing all the Lululemon. They were dressed head to toe in Lululemon, and everybody's eating their nuts and their berries as their snacks. And at dinner, we all went out to dinner, and everyone's eating dinner and no one's eating bread. And I ordered pita bread because it was a Greek restaurant, and everyone's like staring at me and my bread and my hummus. And I'm like, what's going on, guys? Like, I mean, it's hummus and pita bread. And you can see them just wanting to have it so badly. But I was like, what world am I living in? I didn't care. All I knew was this was the best experience I've had in my life, where I was learning something I would never learned before. And I love being a student. And I walked away from that going, my God, I had no idea that there was a world like this of all this. So there wasn't. And they, I remember them saying to us, whatever you do on Monday, you do on Monday. This weekend, you're learning this. And they also shook our hands and said, thank you very much for coming. You'll never hear from us again. We're not that organization. We're just, we just want to help people be better and be stronger. That was 2010, everybody. So fast forward how many years later, it's a lot bigger. It became bigger. And as a result of it getting bigger, it became a little bit more cultish, rigid, whatever you want to call it, right? But when we fell into it, we fell into this idea of, wow, 4, 5 lifts, you get stronger, you can teach it. Here's a model for it to give people a chance to like progress and get stronger. And it was a way of us to learn how to become better coaches too, how to learn to coach people, how to learn to develop our coaching eye. That's what it gave us. That's what it gave me and Diego, the ability to really bring this to people and then grow from there and learn from there. And then having more people come in and teach them and more people come in and teach them and see the program evolve. And there was a time where we didn't really even do the program. We just had the model. We knew how to teach it, but we weren't teaching the program. We weren't doing the program with people because we didn't have enough people. And the gym wasn't open enough days for us to do like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday type of deal, right? It wasn't until we grew and we had the opportunity we had more people, which meant we had more opportunity to teach more people. And then we had more days in the week for people to train. It became, well, now we can really, quote unquote, do the program. So we started to really teach the model. But for us, it's always been just using the model as what it is, the model. you know?
I mean, I guess like you're talking about, like, it gives you a roadmap.
It gives you a roadmap. Absolutely.
And for me, when I started doing the personal training, it definitely was that for me in terms of my training. Like, how am I as a personal trainer in a commercial gym? What do I bring to the table that's different than trainer X, Y, or Z?
Yes.
Like, why would a person want to work with me?
Yes.
And out of all of this stuff, how do I simplify it for people? So it was like, definitely gave me more confidence as a trainer or as a coach. Like, I knew what I was looking for, as opposed to when you just get your regular certification as a personal trainer through whatever certifying organization you go through. They teach you a whole lot of random crap, right? Like everything under the sun. And then they're like, great, now you're a personal trainer. But there's a huge difference between whether you're going to be a trainer who focuses on, helping people get stronger versus helping people develop endurance for marathons, or, whether you're helping people, I don't know. And then even within that, there's, different ideas of how you get people stronger. Lots of people, will have their clients use machines or dumbbells or, you're over a certain age, so you need to be in the silver sneakers class, and we're going to give you a folding chair on which you sit to do your bicep curls, like that kind of thing. So it just gave me the confidence to be able to work with people according to a model that, like, even though I, as a starting trainer, didn't have a whole ton of experience under my belt, I didn't have, tens or hundreds of clients that I had previously worked with. It was a body of information and a coaching community that was supportive, right? Like, that said, yeah, we've worked with people who have had that issue, and here's, so it was just a nice network for coaching questions as well. But I definitely did also then go through a phase of, this is the right answer. All of the rest of you are wasting your time and your client's time, and you should be doing this because this is the only right and true approach to getting stronger. And I think there was or is like a segment of the starting strength community, or media or social media or whatever, that kind of perpetuates that sort of look down your nose at everybody else in the gym wasting their time.
I mean, I think, like I said, for us, it didn't start out that way, and it isn't that way still. We both got certified. We found the program. We did the program for 4 months. We decided to go get certified. Somehow we got certified.
That's 2010.
That's 2010. And then we opened the gym. I opened my gym in 2011, in June of 2011. So that was November of 2010. We got certified.
Hey, Emily, some people are early adapters and some people are late adapters.
I think we just got into it when we got into it right when we, under the radar kind of thing. And it was more of like, you know what you're doing. And the more you do this, the better you will get. And that's exactly what happened, because 4 years later, when we had to go and do that all over again, it was pretty clear that, we knew what we were doing, and we knew this method, and we knew this model, and we liked it, and we were using it. And by that time, I really had enough clients to build a good solid program, around it. But in the beginning, it was more just teaching people how to squat, press, bench, and deadlift to whoever wanted to come in and learn from us. Right.
And even just with that, like, that sounds simple enough, but like, even in a commercial gym setting, like teaching people to squat, even though like high bar, low bar, whatever, right? Like you get people that are going to tell you, if you're doing your low bar squat, oh, you're going to break your back, bending over that bar, whatever. Even people who are okay with I mean, it's like, I hear from trainers, like, oh, certain people shouldn't be squatting. Like, I had that happen just actually even in the past 2 weeks where, somebody was saying like, well, I wouldn't have them do any of that crazy stuff. Like, it was a client who was just doing like dumbbell squats in. So whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
people think that just certain movements are dangerous or not good for knees or not good for backs. Or whatever.
And it's really it's a shame, because people are. I have a client who's going to start with me on Monday, and he just had a second knee replacement. It's a father of one of my clients, and he sat down to talk to me, and when he stood up, he couldn't stand up until he put both his hands on the chair and
pushed himself up. And he pushed.
And he said, this is why you're coming to me, because this is why I'm coming to you. Right. And he needs to learn how to squat. He needs to learn how to sit that, because he said to me, I don't want to end up in a wheelchair. He's 71.
Yeah.
And he could clearly, as he ages and he continues to go the way he's going without actually doing some type of strength work, he will end up in a wheelchair or need a walker or both.
And I mean, that's another bit of like the added confidence of the program, I think, is that there's a lot of research and science behind the articles that are presented in the Starting Strength media. And so when, like I, starting out as a new trainer a couple of years ago, I'm hearing from the trainers at the gym with more experience, or other individuals, they're like, oh, squats are dangerous, they're bad for your knees, I would not have my clients doing that. Like, I then feel confident to say, no, that's nice, but you're wrong. Right. But in a nice way.
Right. And so you think about how many years ago, if I had started training and coaching people when I was in my 20s, what I would do with them, it'd be very different. Because my thinking was different. And now, as a result of learning more about this program and learning more about the human body and understanding more about, myself, I see it's now turned to strength is functional, right? Strength is needed, and your body will be the body you have if you give it what it needs. And by getting stronger, your whole focus changes on what your body is capable of doing and what it looks like. And you start to see a different person in the mirror, especially if you have, like I say, if you have any body image issues, if you've got, right, as I had, as you've had, you see a different person, you see a confident person. So the strength training, that at least the way that we approach it, gave that to me that no other program had ever done before. And I see it do that for my other clients too, and especially my women, right? It becomes this, that what it did too was just as far as like, how have I changed over the years? I see going to the gym and training as just that, training in order to make my body more functioning, right? As I age, I want to be more independent. There was a great quote from an article that I posted recently from the Washington Post about aging, right? And the benefits of strength training as we get older. And it was exercise is the best prescription for maintaining independence. And that is all that's all I preach these days is about the stronger you are, the more independent you will be able to be.
And I think that's a message that really resonates with people of a
Yes.
certain age. But like if you had tried to present that message to 20-year-old you,
Right.
like crickets.
Exactly. And even still, like, I mean, I think my 30-year-olds and maybe my 20-year-olds who come, they have that message. The message is that this is, they want this, they enjoy this is good for them. My 30-year-olds, my 40-year-olds, it is for that purpose of, I want to age well. I want my quality of life to be better. And then it's also those people bringing their parents in because they see their parents starting to deteriorate and they don't want that to happen. And they've encouraged them and being able to convince them to do this, or they come in on their own, like my member's father did. He came and he asked her when I would like to start. I really want to do something. I need to do something. And it's like, he needs to do it today, not next week, but now, because it's only going to get, it sneaks up on you, right? All of a sudden you're a year older, you're 2 years older, you're 4 years older. Your body is going to start to age. How can you keep that quality of life that you've been enjoying to a point where you can really maintain that independence? So I really like that quote a lot. So yeah, my thinking of my coaching, my approach to training, totally different. I've also changed at least the approach that we have. We're still teaching, obviously, our barbell method. We're still using the starting strength model, but I definitely, have programmed differently, and I do a lot more accessory work and a lot more assistance work with my clients. Right? We have 2 cable machines now. We have a leg press. We have a lot of specialty bars that we utilize. Safety squat bar, a Viking press attachment. So there's a lot of variation in the program. We're not just sticking with those 4 big lifts.
Well, I mean, but the other thing too is your gym has been in operation for a number of years.
Right.
You've got a lot more intermediate trainees than so you need that stuff.
Exactly. And even my newer ones, even my beginner lifters, I'll start putting them on, start giving them rows early on. I'll start doing, and a lot of that is because I realize they need it. People need more than just those big lifts. They're good in the beginning for like the first couple of months because it keeps them focused. It builds a sense of confidence and establishes their program. But over time, I start to throw in those other exercises in there because, one, variety, right? Keeping somebody engaged in what they're doing. 2, just going to complement. I mean, it's just, they're going to learn what their back actually does in a row. they're going to understand how to move their scapula together, right? I mean, there are benefits to those other exercises beyond, besides just, giving them to people because, you want to fill the time. They do have a purpose too. And I start to feel as though they are part of my program. They are part of the program too. And people enjoy it. They enjoy the variety. Right. They also like the fact that they can see their other lifts getting better as a result. And they want to keep coming back and do more and do more. That may not have been the case, in the past, maybe because I didn't have the equipment either, but also just wasn't really, I didn't have as many people hanging around.
When I first started with you, I had to like beg to get like some sort of a row. In there,
right?
And so it was like a little while before I was like, I guess you give me a T-bar row for a while.
Yeah, now people want to do curls. Like, go ahead, do curls.
Yeah. I was like, dude, I really think I should be doing some kind of a rowing movement.
So I've evolved that way too. We're trying to provide my clients with even a more well-rounded program. Right.
I mean, sometimes it's like you might have a client, like maybe I fell into that category for you, but like sometimes it's like in order to get a person to do the program, maybe you have to like toss them a few crumbs, right? Like,
absolutely.
okay, yeah, like, all right, there's really no point of you doing bicep curls or calf raises at this point in your program, but if that's gonna get you to buy in,
do it.
Then, okay, have
that's
at
right.
it.
That's right. That's right. I'm going to give people, I'm going to give people what they need, but also give people what they want as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I guess that's also the difference between like, okay, so if you're starting strength and you are selling the program, you're going to be true to the program and you're going to figure that the people who want to do that program are going to find it
right.
and implement it the way it's written.
Yes.
Or YNTDP, whatever,
right.
whatever.
Right.
Right. You're not my target demographic. When you're running a gym or you're working as a personal trainer, you're kind of coming at it from the other angle where it's like, you've got the people, you know, the program that's going to help them, but they may not want the program. So it's like, it's always been for me with individuals, especially at, you know, commercial gym settings, like, how can I get this person to do as much of the program as I can possibly get them to do, while, you know, like kind of ease them into it, or, you know, like, you know, they have their ideas about what they want to do based on what they see other people doing, what they've read, and a little bit of it's not doing the program, but a little bit of the program is better than not at all.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I make compromises to get somebody in the door and interested.
Yes. And you're right. Like at our gym, because people come specifically for that program, or they come for the barbell work. Maybe it's not, maybe they don't know that we use the model, the starting strength model. They don't, you know, they don't care about that.
But they've already come in the door knowing they're walking into a gym that focuses primarily on barbell.
And we give them this program, and the program is this you know, we teach them, you're going to teach you to squat, press, bench, and deadlift. They want that.
Yeah. Whereas like when I start with a new client and they say they want to squat, I always end up asking, like, do you have any thoughts on barbells? What are your thoughts? You know, like, and that's I pre-screen to see what their biases are.
And that's not even like, that's never the question, because you walk in, that's all you see at my place.
Yeah. You get to skip that stage of the client orientation.
So they get all excited, like a couple months into the program, when I say to them, okay, now we're going to take the deadlift out on this day. We are? I'm like, yeah, we're going to do some rows. We are? And it's like, oh my God, you know, it's like a whole brand new day. And it's like, yeah, you're going to have a heavy press, and you're going to do a light bench, and we're going to do some rows. Or someone says, I really want to work on my chin-ups. I'm like, great, we're going to work on chin-ups. If I want to work on my push-up, great, we're going to work on push-ups. And we start to add those in, but I don't necessarily want to throw those in until we get the person settled where they are. And then it's nice to also then start to see they start to see the program evolve, so they can see that we're constantly thinking of them. We're constantly trying to change and make them better and make them stronger. And it's just the fact that they can't keep adding 5 pounds. So eventually, you know, something has to give. This is the way to do it. But I don't have to sell that, because that's already sold. Right? That's already sold. But it is, for some clients who are very diehard, I only want to lift this way. I have to be a little bit more creative about how I sneak in those extra exercises, you know, because they don't necessarily want that. Why am I doing this? I'm sweating too much. It feels like cardio, because I'm having them do like a superset of something. I'm like, oh my God, fine, we'll just take them out. You know, I mean, it'd be good for you to do this, because some of them just want the program. So, you know, those people, I have to kind of try to like finagle them to do something else, because they're so set on the program. But most people at the gym, they love the fact that it's varied, you know, and everyone really does have their own program, while they're all doing pretty much the same, you know, the same lifts. My programming hasn't changed too much in that sense, except just add in, you know, different exercises and try to broaden their programming, so they get a little bit more, like I said, a little bit more well-rounded, you know, program. I just think overall, like for me, probably for you too, our sense of just what has changed for us over the years and how we come to view training and the gym time is just so different from where I was 30 years ago.
Yeah, no, I'm actually still kind of thinking about accessory exercises, because like a lot of I mean, and how my thinking has changed, but like
Mhm.
I did that whole pelvic floor prenatal
Yeah.
postpartum coursework. And so like the whole idea of having people do single leg work or lateral work, like I will toss that in for people into their programs
Mhm.
a little bit more now with that in mind.
Mhm.
Like, first of all, I think it's good for some people, especially if they're desk bound, to be able to work and move in more planes of motion
Mhm.
than they do when they're sitting at their
Mhm.
desk and when they're doing their barbell lifts,
Mhm.
right? So, like, people who generally live in a very sort of rigid movement
Right.
patterns,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's good to get them to, I think, good to get them to move, like toss in some lateral lunges, some single leg, RDLs or something
Absolutely.
like that,
Yep.
just to get them using their body,
Yep.
comfortable using their body in different ways. Because sometimes you do get off your balance, and it's important to be able to be comfortable in
Mhm.
that, other
Mhm.
motion. But then also just like the importance of doing that for pelvic floor health is something that I wasn't really aware of
Yeah.
or didn't think about until more recently. So, but that whole thought process of why is it in the program
Mhm.
is something that is obviously very different from what we were discussing, our approach being when we were in our 20s or 30s. There wasn't really such a solid why, or at least not such a functionally based why.
No.
The why was all based on aesthetics, and that's fine. That'll take you a certain distance, especially like in terms of fitness or whatever, but it doesn't kind of cover all of the important aspects of why a person might be exercising and doing things in the gym,
Yeah.
why a person might be
Yeah.
training.
Yeah. And I think I really do. I think a lot about what I was doing back then and why I was doing it. And like I said, the pictures I had of who I wanted to look like, and yet the way I was doing it, the way I was going about it was just so wrong. And I wasn't eating, I was trying to starve myself, and doing tons of cardio, and like I said, being in the gym for 4 hours and having this complete mindset of I'm going to the gym so I can be thinner, so I can be smaller, and I'm not going to eat because if I don't eat, then I'll be smaller. And now it's the opposite of I go to the gym to be bigger because I'd like to have more muscle and gain more strength. And I eat because eating is important to lift, to build that muscle and, recover from my workouts. And it's a whole other, it's like a whole other world. I mean, the thought of like eating and enjoying eating and why I'm eating, and I'm eating to train, and I train because I want to be stronger. It's not even that me, that 48-year-old me talking to like 22-year-old me. 22-year-old me would be like, "Oh my, who are you? Where have you come from?"
Who are you and what have you done?
People talk about wanting to be back in their 20s. I was talking to Diego about this last night. Oh, I wish when I was in my 20s. I'm like, I don't ever want to go back to my 20s. I never except when I met Diego. Okay, that was my late 20s, though. But I do not ever want to go back to my 20s. I don't like the way I felt about myself. I don't like the way that I looked because I was doing so much harm to myself by what I was doing and how I was going about doing things. It was not a very pleasant time for me. Early 30s was better. By my mid 30s, late 30s, I was great. And I was on a much better path, healthier path.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's probably just also for a lot of people the natural course of getting older and wiser.
Yeah, I hope so. Because I mean, I think that there are plenty of people who still are stuck in that mindset of when they were in their 20s and wanting to go back to because they're older.
I think one of the things that you've mentioned that strength training has done for you is shifted your perspective and given you more confidence. And usually what you're describing about wanting to go back or being, like there's a level of insecurity involved with that.
Yes.
And so if a person is able to find a way to be more comfortable, confident, and secure in who they are and their body, how they're using it, how they're gaining, what they're gaining instead of what they feel like they've lost and left.
Yes.
Then that kind of helps to.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what I think that's exactly what the strength training does, and why my thought as a coach, I'm so glad has shifted into such a different mindset, because I'm able to provide that for my clients of all ages. But really, I think take people who may not feel so confident or comfortable in their bodies and make them strong, and then make them confident, being able to feel like they can travel again, or they can start traveling because now their back doesn't bother them anymore. Their knees don't hurt them anymore. Because that is ultimately, I think, really, what we, the benefit of what we do is just to make ourselves feel like our daily lives are easier. Like you're saying, when you had the little ones.
Or like you're talking about with the article, like maintaining independence.
Independence.
Right?
Independence. I think so many people end up in nursing homes or end up in assisted living homes because they can't take care of themselves. It can be different, and it doesn't have to necessarily even be with a barbell. Just some type of getting stronger can start in so many ways, right? You just need to have some kind of progressive overload. You need to understand that going to the gym needs to be more than just going to the gym. There needs to be some type of just like with anything, there needs to be a plan, right? And sometimes you need to have somebody to help you with that plan. That's where a coach comes into play. And that's something I wish I'd had all those years ago, a coach. I never had anybody. It's like we all need somebody in there, but there wasn't at the time, why would you want to get stronger? Why would you want to be stronger? I would have asked myself the same question. Why? What's the point of that? But, times have changed. Other thoughts?
I think we pretty much covered it.
I think that's good. Yeah. I mean, I think we, this topic, and we might come back to this topic, everybody, not so much in this kind of detail, but, I think, when we started talking about this, or when Diego suggested this, he thought of maybe how we have changed our minds as coaches in regards to training our clients. Well, we could talk about that another time.
That's because Diego is a scientist, so his question was specific. Exactly.
But I think
you and I are like, what was your major? Because I was an English major. I got
a dance major. Dance major. It's a dance major.
Well, we got historical about it.
But I think knowing where people come from and why we've reached where we are today will help maybe other people kind of get an idea of thinking about their own process of in training, their own journey. And maybe we'll be able to help other people who are thinking more of what we thought about when we were in our 20s and 30s and steer them in the direction of where we are today. What strength training can do for you, what it really can help you with, not just, a word you throw out there, but get a little deeper into what it does for you. Manny, was talking about he's always philosophizing at the gym, and he was talking about just that yesterday, how much a better person he is. I mean, right. I think he talked about that on his podcast.
There's a lot of life lessons involved in strength training.
So much.
That's a whole other, Emily. That's a whole other day.
Whole other day. So we, I think we'll end there, because that's as much as we have to say on the matter. We could probably talk about other things too, but if you've got questions or comments about what we've talked about today, please share them with us. We'd love to hear from you. You can always reach out to me at Emily@5by3.com or Rebecca at
cornerstonestrengthmaryland@gmail.com.
We've got the Charm City Strong Women contest coming up Sunday, June 11th. We'll start our campaign sometime in May, our donation campaign, sometime our fundraising campaign in May. So look for that
Yeah,
link.
Chris mentioned that the other day.
Mhm.
That you were
Oh yeah, I contacted him. I have to go pick up a sponsorship from him, and then to any of our listeners who live in the area or aren't near a coach and want to get some coaching, we are running a squat and deadlift camp on Sunday, April 30th at the gym from 8:30 a.m. till 1 p.m. So you can go to the Starting Strength website and register via them for that event if you want to come up for the camp on Sunday, April 30th. And we'll be back in another couple weeks, Rebecca and I, to talk a little bit more about strength training. What we like to talk about the most. So join us then, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. More about Rebecca, please visit her website, cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.